What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Dynamic Character Productions exit interview. Today, Lily, Alex, and I are here with our fourth juror, Kiley Kelley. Kylie, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. How about y'all?
Good,
I'm doing good. Lily, Alex, how about yourself?
good.
Doing great. It's Memorial Day weekend. What better way to enjoy it by talking with one of our amazing dynamic character production all-stars?
I mean, just butter me up.
Well,
Truly.
yeah, let's get into it. What, like going into All Stars, maybe like through the first night, were you thinking? You get put on your tribe, you don't have anybody for Monte Carlo, but you do have other relationships. So, how are you trying to navigate that at the beginning of the game?
Okay, so I mean, it was exciting. I was really excited to play All Stars. I obviously knew that if Mike was there, we wouldn't be on the same tribe together. And if we were, it would honestly just be like a big problem. So it was good to not be on a starting tribe with him. I would have liked to have seen him eventually, but yeah, no, I was excited. And of course, like I see Karen, I see Corey, and so I'm like, okay, like I've got several connections here, and I end up with Corey, which I love Corey. I knew obviously like he's kind of aggressive a little bit with his gameplay sometimes. We've played many a game night together. And so I was like, oh, I might would have rather have gotten with Corey a bit later in the game. I might would have rather have started with Karen. But yeah, I was excited. I was excited to see lots of new faces for me.
Yeah, and I know you like briefly talked about Corey, but a big part in your pre-merge game was, having to vote him out, and that was very hard for you. Do you think that like there were a lot of factors that went into it, and we kind of saw it in the episode, but do you think there was anything that wasn't shown that really pushed you to vote for him, or maybe pushed you to try to get him not to be voted, but then there was like a point that was a breaking point for it?
Yeah, so initially, like, we have to go to tribal council like the first night. Both tribes do. And we pretty easily settle on Austin Moorhead to vote out. And that was easy. That kind of was directed by Corey and that he really wanted this big majority group to work together. And so I was like, great. Like, I don't care who we vote out at first. I just don't want it to be me. I'm not going to say a name. So whatever happens, happens. Fine with me. But what doesn't exactly get shown is at that very first tribal council when we are going to vote out Austin Moorhead, there is a Zoom call that I'm invited into. And when I get in, already Lex is there, Shea's there, Zucker is there, Sarah's there, and then Ashley comes in like right after me. And I was like, bullshit. And like 2 minutes into the call, the little 30-minute Zoom timer pops up. So, like, lesson number one, if you are going to pull someone into a Zoom call, you need to have unlimited Zoom because immediately I was like, well, this isn't good for me. And so I think that that really dictated how I played the rest of the game. And that was day two, because I knew I was like number six in the tribe, which isn't a bad place to be when there's 10 people, 9 people, however many. But after you vote out a few people, you're kind of in a bit of a precarious spot and you don't want to be number six. And so I played the whole game with the assumption that I was not really high on anyone's priority list. So I don't think I really answered the question about
Oh,
Corey at all. But yeah, no, that Zoom call really set it off. And so I just knew that once Corey kind of pulled his shenanigans a little bit and his name got put out there, I didn't have the social capital to change it from him. And I felt like anything that I did was, like when Corey is number seven now out of 8 people, like it's very easy to just flip flop six and seven, and for me to have been the one voted off and not Corey. So I was like, yeah, nope, I can't do this. Like, we saw what happened whenever I tried to save Mike and Monte Carlo, and I wasn't going to do it, especially with so many people left in the game still. I couldn't. So,
it's sort of interesting hearing the perspective of like from the player themselves of where you felt your position was, because from a production standpoint, while we understood like the complications of being connected to Corey during the round that Corey goes, our perception was more so like, well, Kylie still is in very good graces with a majority of the tribe. So from our standpoint, we're like, oh, she's not six. Like she's in the top three in position right now. Like there's Lex, there's Ashley, there's you. There's the whole Cheetah Girls alliance of it all. Um, but with that, it's like it's very interesting to think that you were lower than what you were because I felt like you were in like a lot of the main groupings that were making the calls for your tribe.
Hmm. And I mean, whenever it probably breaks down, I would have probably been like second or third individually for a lot of people. But with the big group, I was definitely a little bit on the outside. But then whenever you look more nuanced, I was probably, like second or third. But I really kind of want to be like number one. Like I want to be multiple people's number ones. And I didn't ever really feel like I had that. And so I felt like I was playing a bit behind the eight ball kind of the whole game. So there's
Why do
that.
you think you didn't feel that, I guess? Because I mean, from everyone we've talked to so far in Exits, only great things to say about you and that they wanted to work with you closely. But
Mhm.
there is a lot of they just felt like they couldn't get there. Why do you think that is?
Um, Honestly, like I have never probably played with someone as good socially as Lex, and I knew Lex's game. I knew all of the groupings that he was in. Like I knew that he had the three with me, him, and Ashley. I knew that he had a three with him, Shea, and Sarah, and I felt like Lex was kind of in the position that I wanted to be in a little bit, and so yeah, Lex was definitely at the tribe portion in a really, really good spot with pretty much everybody. And everyone knew it, but anytime you tried to say anything, nobody was concerned about it except for me.
Well, that kind of leads into my next question is on your swap tribe, when you have to go to tribal, you work with Karen and you end up voting Brittley. Was there any point in that vote out that you thought, well, this might be the time to get Lex, especially if you're worried about the potential merge coming up at that point?
Yeah, so when we swapped, I was so happy to get swapped with Karen. We immediately got on a call. Like, I told her everything, spilled all the beans. She spilled all the beans back. So, had a really good understanding of what was happening on the other side, at least from Karen's perspective. And then she knew everything that was happening with our side from my perspective. And I did want to get Lex whenever we do have our one tribal council. The problem is that Karen and Brittley were not working close together, and so if she would have been swapped with someone she had been working better with, I feel like we could have done it there. And then also, like I knew I couldn't approach Brittley with it because Brittley and Lex, once again, like this instant connection, and I was like, I can't say anything to Brittley, like cannot even drop a little hint because I do not want this coming around on me. And one thing that wasn't shown is I worked really, really hard to try to get Lex or Garso to go into the high rollers room. I knew that I personally didn't want to go because I didn't want to risk anything, but I was like, well, if one of them goes and something bad happens, then potentially me and Karen could have the majority votes there if Lex or Garso could have lost their vote. And then I also was working really, really closely with Garso. We ended up having a great relationship. Like, he's one of my favorite people that I met in this game. And I dropped some little nuggets to him to see how he felt about possibly voting Lex. And he was not up for it. And so I was like, okay, well, this isn't going to happen. Like, I just have to make sure that it stays on Brittley and not Karen. That was then just my main objective. And yeah, we got there pretty easily. So
Had you ever considered voting Garso as no, like seeing that he did not consider Lex? Were you starting to be afraid, like Lex has these numbers and, like what you said, numbers that are his and not yours?
yeah.
Was that a
I
consideration?
did not ever want to vote Garso. I really would like. I think Garso is the only one that I made any promise to that I initiated, where I told him like I will go to the end of this game with you, and truly meant it. Like never would have voted Garso out. So no, I was just wanting to get Lex out so that Garso could be mine, just like I wanted to get Ashley out so Karen could be mine. And so yeah, no, I didn't want to vote Garso out in any ideas of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and so after your swap tribe, we get to the merge, and right before, or I guess right after the merge, before the first challenge, like a whole lot of hoopla happens, right? I've talked about it with people. I'm still confused, right? I still don't know what the hoopla is. So, but it completely twists your game upside down. Talk to us a little bit about it. What do you feel like really changed it that we didn't get to see because so much happened and it just all can't fit in an episode?
Yeah, no, I mean, it would have taken multiple episodes to probably be able to show it all. So basically, what happens is as soon as we merge, we have that big call that is shown with everyone except for Simmons, Maddie, and Austin Moorhead. And it's thrown out like, hey, let's just vote, do a split vote. Which, if one of them wins immunity, we split the vote between the other two. We never like nailed down a secure name, but we were supposed to talk again in the morning. And so we get off the call. That's the plan. I end up having a call later that night with Karen, and Karen gives me a whole lot of information that Ashley gave to Karen. So I don't want to think that I am the leak. I think it's Ashley, my girl. And so Ashley tells Karen about this code that her, Shea, and Zucker had come up with, and gives Karen the whole rundown about it, and then tells her that Lex had a call with Zucker, and we see a little bit of it where Lex is fishing for information. Zucker does not give it to him. And so from that conversation, Lex had decided that, yes, we're going to, get one of like the three outsiders. And then next we need to get Zucker. And I was like, this is it. This is where I can make my move. I did not want it to be like a big flashy move. In fact, that is why I only told a couple people. And so what's not shown is I have a one-on-one conversation with Zucker that Saturday morning before the mini started. And I was like, I'm about to give you some information. Like, if you leak this, then you're probably tanking my game. But I want you to know, like, this is factual. The people that you think you're working closely with are telling things to other people, and the only way I can know this is if someone you think you're working closely with is telling other people things. And so I tell him that I know about the code. I told him about his conversation with Lex, where Lex was like fishing for information, and that Zucker did not pass Lex's test, and Lex was after Zucker. And so I'm like, if someone came to me with this information, I would put it in my back pocket and I would sit on it, and I would absolutely have taken that into account and probably gone with that plan. And so when we have a call, it's me, Zucker, Karen, Andrew at first, and we pull in Simmons. And so we knew that the big group's plan was to split the vote. So we didn't even have to have the majority votes. So I was good with keeping it between 5 people. And shit hit the fan. Zucker, I guess, tells Shea. Shea tells Lex and Ashley, and absolute chaos ensues. And so, I wasn't the leak. I only told one person really, and then the rest happened from there. And it was just a whirlwind from that moment on.
No, truly, I'll pronounce it how you guys wanted to pronounce it. Your FOMO tribe, it was like the Survivor challenge of the leaking boat. It's like there wasn't one leak. It was there. All of you were leaking it to each other and to the outside three. It was
Yeah.
just impossible to pale out the water in time. But I do want to go to this round because although like maybe in hindsight taking Lex out wasn't like at that specific moment, and same for him going for you, may have not been the best move. But I think what you did that was very tactful and very getting that step ahead that won you the game or won you that round was you approaching the people outside in that three of Maddie, of Simmons, of Moorhead, because I feel like you and Karen got to them first.
Yeah,
And
I
I think that
mean,
was crucial for you guys to ultimately win that round.
and I think that And I think also like Andrew was a big part of that too. And like the night before, I had a really long call with Simmons. I think he is someone that if we had been on like in the long game portion on a tribe together, I think he's someone that I could have really worked with. I know a lot of people don't like working with the bros, but I mean, from my past, like that is the type of player that I can work easily with. And so we had a really good, easy conversation. I had a good conversation with Maddie. And then, have this conversation with Andrew. And, like I think the things that I was saying about Lex, they could easily see because Lex like presented Andrew with like, hey, nobody would expect it. Let's work together. And so I think being able to lay out like what Lex did, what they were able to see it just in the short interactions that they had with him. And I know that it may not have been the right time, but I just felt like with where I was positioned in the tribe, nobody, no, I was nobody's number one. Like where they were talking about possibly flipping it on Zucker in that second vote at the merge, like I think that could have easily have been me. And we see Professor Shea do his whole breakdown of the game, and he basically says it. And so I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't feel bad about this. And I was just really, really worried with Lex's strong connections that once we got into the portion, it would be hard to pull the numbers together because he did have so many strong relationships and some that you didn't even necessarily know about. And I was like, if you say the wrong thing to the wrong person in the wrong room, then it's you all of a sudden. And so I wanted to take advantage of that last morning where we could have calls. And so that is why I really wanted Lex to go at the merge. And I felt like just busting it open where you no longer have this big group of like 6 or 7, and now there's groups of 2 and groups of 3 and groups of 4 possibly. I was like, I think that this ultimately looks better for my game. Hindsight 2020, maybe not, but it's hard to say. Like I don't feel like making the move on Lex is necessarily what gets me voted out 3 rounds later. I don't know if it would have been any different. It just might have been different for some other people.
Right.
One of my favorite things to do in analyzing Survivor, whether it be real Survivor or this, is not look at the immediate reaction of something, but like something down the road. Like it's interesting when we just talked about Corey creating that super majority, like how that sort of impacts right now, because who knows if that super majority is even still in place, and Corey's not even around anymore. Right. So it's just, and of course the super majority falls as it always does. Yeah, it's just very interesting to see that kind of stuff. But having played with Corey, I totally understood what I was seeing from him. So
yeah. And it's it's a thing of like Corey set all of this in motion, and then me and Corey are the two that end up kind of on the outside of it. And so we didn't benefit from the super majority necessarily. So
right. And like
it was
we talked about in his exit too, like it was really just, I mean, you knew his plan was good. It was just like way too early in the game, and that you have to time, especially in a game of this format, I think more so than any other one. Minis, you don't really have time, and long game, you have so much time. But this game, this format, you have to time everything basically perfectly in order to, make moves. And I think, this was, you got with the Lex thing, you got like a wave of some doubt and you took advantage of it. And I think, who knows, even next round when Shea comes back from exile, who knows what the case is. Not that, Shea was in exile after you had done this, but
right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like we're talking about like what creates a target, what creates those opportunities, and like and not so much from you, but from people on your cast. A lot of people were looking specifically in terms of like season groupings. And like a lot of it was focused on Lex, the trinity of it all. But then like you get to this vote, you take out Lex, and suddenly you're at final 10, but there's 4 people from exile. All four bros, all from exile, all still here. And like I think that ultimately for everyone involved at this point of the game is the real sticker of why a lot of the boots go how they do, because ultimately if you're going to say Zucker, but you have Andrew and Simmons and Austin, like Yeah, but
Yeah.
we have four people right here guaranteed, and then like Maddie's loyal with us, so Maddie knows in her best interest it doesn't make sense to go against Simmons and Austin. It's like you suddenly have 5 votes that you have to work against, and that's a majority almost instantly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I definitely overlooked that, and maybe that was my flaw in that where I didn't plan it out good enough, because I'm telling y'all, when we get that call with Andrew and I think it was Austin, and they're like, "Hey, Exile boys, let's do this." I was like, shocked. And I was like, "Oh, you are so stupid. You let this like slide under the radar." And I didn't have enough time to make deeper connections with Andrew and Simmons. I think that those two could have been the ones that, if I had more time with those two individually, I think I could have maybe just wiggled my way in there and positioned myself where I wanted to be at that point. But I just didn't have enough time. I only had the evening and super early in the morning before the mini started. And, you can't undo a 39-day game season that they got to play together, and then also the week that basically Austin, Simmons, and Maddie got to have together. So um, that's where I messed up.
Yeah, and I wonder
One
like
of the ways.
if your like work relationship with Zucker really, I felt like got you out at the end, because had you had been able to reconnect, or maybe the blowout didn't affect you and Zucker. I mean, we see it in your episode, right? It's you or Zucker, and we see Simmons say to Maddie, "We have Zucker," where Maddie is like, "I don't really want to get out, Kylie, like I like her." Do you think that if the whole blowout didn't happen, would you have made it longer? Or do you think you needed that blowout, like you mentioned earlier, to get to where you're voted out to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I guess just really my thinking was that I could have easily been like the first person booted from the original Fumo, just because I do have, a pretty good social game. And so I feel like I would have been a target earlier than later. And so I just felt like that little bit of chaos, not a little bit, a lot of chaos, I felt like that was going to play in my favor. But I definitely didn't want the blow up. And I think I didn't ever have, just like, I told Corey basically, like, hey, you're trying to pull together, you, me, Jeremy, and Garso. Like, we just don't have those relationships. I don't think I had the relationship with Zucker. And so, like, if it would have been, I don't know, maybe Shea, maybe Ashley, if one of them had been the one to fail Lex's test, then maybe I would have had, especially Ashley, because Ashley and I were close, then maybe that would have been the person I would have been like, "Look, we have to do this." And it wouldn't have erupted like it did. And, I probably shouldn't have put so much trust into Zucker when we just didn't have that kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to back up a little bit just
Okay.
to, a big thing we talked about with Shea, we talked about it with Lex, was the option for exile. And it was talked about a lot. You're 2 frames away from getting to go to exile instead of Shea. How, like, do you think that it was a blessing in disguise that you didn't go? Or, just your thoughts on the what if of it all?
Yeah. So initially, when Shay sat down, I was pissed as hell. Like, seriously, the maddest I've ever been at anybody in a game was at that moment, because I was like, just let me and Lex battle it out for this. Like, clearly we're the two names that are up here. Yes, by kind of both of our doings, but I was mad, and I was like, okay, this is a direct attack on me. And so I was pissed at Shay, and so him going, I was like, good. Like, he's a number for Lex, so get him the fuck out of here. If I'm not the one that's going to exile, I'm glad that it's Shay, and at least the person whose name I've thrown out is still here. And so kind of fun that me and Lex got to be the two that stuck around. And yeah, in hindsight, with it working out in my favor, I am glad that ultimately Shay went and not me, because I think that if I would have come back from exile with no vote, um, with an advantage that, I mean, maybe I would have played it like in Extreme Flip Cup because I do okay in that. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know if that would have necessarily benefited me that much, and like, who knows what Lex is able to do without me there to uh try to like hammer home the point of how good he is. So yeah, probably a blessing in disguise that Shea went and not me.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it was, the nail in Shay's coffin, which gave you time to.
Yeah, and like also just seeing how Garso reacted to it, I was like, that's my boy Garso.
Well, and really my last question, because I want us to be able to get to Facebook in time, is there's a lot of talk in the last two episodes. So when Ashley goes and when you go, about this swapped three FUMO, being Maddie, Simmons, and Austin. And a lot of people are worried about them, but there's no group. Like, why did you not go after those three now? Why did you not go after them before? Why do you think it's a concern but not enough and they keep slipping through the cracks?
That's a really great question. So I mean, obviously the Lex vote, I got what I wanted. Then when Shea comes back from exile, I probably was like blinded by how pissed I am because, in real time, this is, 20 minutes later, and I am still like heart pounding, like heart palpitations, didn't think that I was going to make it through that. And so when Shea's name gets thrown out immediately, I was like, peace, don't care, so glad to see you go. Um, and so okay, great. And then the very next round, I'm immediately in a call with Simmons and Austin Moorhead, and Austin Moorhead's like, Ashley or Garso. And I'm like, well, damn, I didn't want it to be Ashley or Garso. But like if I have to choose, I'm not gonna say Garso. So I mean, I guess Ashley. And with how fast the mini runs, like Ashley's name was out there, and then it was like Ashley or Zucker, Ashley or Zucker. I mean, the votes just weren't there to get Zucker, and so I was like, well, use this to your advantage. Like Karen is going to be freed up because I know if it would have ever got down to a decision of her having to choose between me and Ashley, that would have been extremely hard. I don't know what she would have done. Um, it would have been a toss up, and so I was like, just take advantage of this. Like you've got Garso close to you, you've got Karen close to you. I felt okay with Simmons. I felt okay with Maddie. I felt okay with Andrew. So I was like, hopefully this is enough that nobody just wants to target me next. And then the next round, I don't know. I don't know which one of them said my name first, if it was Austin Moorhead or if it was Zucker. But then all of a sudden my name is out there and Zucker is the only other name getting tossed around. So, I mean, once again, like I don't have the time to jump on and be like, hey, look, here's a problem over here. We've got these three people. It's, me battling out for my life. And so, kind of just that was the first time I've played a mini. I've played like one round of a mini before in Monte Carlo, but I'd never played a Survivor mini. And so maybe a little bit of inexperience there and not realizing the pace and how it was going to go, and not quite being able to get my feet back under me from the merge vote. So I don't know. Everybody knew that one of the three of them needed to go, but like you said, even at 10, they're kind of already swapping things around, like pulling in Andrew, pulling in Zucker, and it's like, oh shit, my bad. And
Yeah,
probably
boy.
my fault a little bit. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all my questions if we're ready for Facebook.
Okay. I'll start with a friend of Kylie's. We got the first boot of Lalomano Beach, Bob Allen. I was rooting for you, Kylie. Was there a Get Kylie Out alliance?
So my very first org that I played, me and Bob were Ride or Dies Alliance members, and I ended up winning much to Bob's help. He helped me so much to get to the end. And whenever they were doing like superlatives at the end of the game, the number one, their host favorite named alliance was Get Kylie and Bob Out. And so as far as I know, there was no Get Kylie Out alliance. that has only been just one blessing that we've gotten.
Lovely. Next is Stephen Bays from Era Ricky. Kylie, was your dislike of Zucker real or was it just gameplay?
Oh, geez. You know, Mike Zucker, he is a really difficult person. No, I'm kidding. He is literally the nicest person in the entire world in real life. No real life hate towards Zucker. I did issue an apology for my voting confessional, may have crossed the line a little bit with it. Literally, though, Zucker's the nicest person in the world. Our games just did not align at all.
Okay, I'm glad we cleared that up for Stephen. Next question is from Coach Andrew Denson. Was a pleasure meeting you in the game and glad I was able to finally tell you about how I really empathized with you with some of the moments from your first game. You did your thing. Question, what's the worst way someone has ever butchered your name in real life?
I mean, I feel like for the most part, people will get it right now. Because of like Kylie Jenner. So mostly I just deal with the misspelling of it, Kylie. Like all the right letters, all the wrong order. So no one's really butchered it too badly.
The Jenners and Kardashians helped for something.
Yeah, they just ruined it for me. And they're so, you know, people are like Kylie Jenner. I'm like, well, she's like 15 years younger than me, so no. But yes.
Well, the next question is from Luke from Trinity Falls. Kylie, you killed it. You were so fun to watch. What's the first thing you said to Lex when you got to Ponderosa?
Oh God, I don't even remember. Luckily, Lex is just as great outside of the game as he appears in the game. He may have been a little bit pissed at me. He did not show it. And we have a great relationship. We talk on the weekly basis, and yeah, he's just as lovable as you could imagine. So it was probably me being like, sorry, Lex, had to get you. And I think he mostly respected it, even though he hated it too.
Lovely. Next is from Ashley. Uh, Kylie, it was such a pleasure meeting you and getting to know you in this game. You're such a lovely person, and your commitment to your family and your friends is truly inspiring. Okay, I have some questions, but before I get to them, let me pull this knife out of my back. Totally just kidding. Laughing emojis, multiple of them. Um, if Mike had not been booted immediately prior to the merge, how do you think that would have affected your game? Would you have altered your strategy at the merge at all, or would it have just been the same but with one more number?
Oh, it would have been the same with one more number. Maybe I don't tell Zucker and I just try to assemble the numbers without him
Hmm.
because at that point I feel great with Karen. I feel great with Mike. If she feels that she can pull in Andrew and Simmons, like, you know, maybe we're just able to do it without cluing in Zucker. And maybe everything just goes a lot more smoothly. It's interesting to think about because I do feel like if Mike and I had the merge together, my threat level goes up immensely because everybody knows how close we are. I tried to downplay it as much as possible. Once again, like part of the reason why I wanted Lex out so badly is because he continuously kept talking about me and Mike and like how big of a liar Mike was. I was like, he's not that big of a liar. He's a really great guy. And so yeah, I think it would have made us both really, really big targets, but it wouldn't have stopped me from trying to keep him there still.
It's a big what if, because let's say they ultimately go that route and Maddie goes instead of Mike, and yet Mike as part of the three going
Hmm.
in. I think if all else stays the same, when you get to eight, it might end up being Karen that goes instead of you,
Hmm.
because you now have Mike in your corner with all those exile guys to be
Yeah.
like, hey, Kylie's solid. Let's let's keep her another round, and maybe that like buys you another round of time before you and him could like try to flip it on its head. It's very
Sure.
interesting to think about, and as everyone knows, we here at DCP all love Mike Rick so much, so it would have been a joy to watch you
Yeah,
two do it again.
it would have been fun, and we've never gotten to play a mini together before, so it would have been interesting to get to have that first experience with him. Um, and like always, I feel like Mike is a bigger target than me, and so by the same token, if they're like, "Oh shit," like we need to nip this in the bud, then it's probably Mike that gets clipped before I do. So it would have probably only been good for me for Mike to have been there, but alas.
Uh, okay. The next question, or from Ashley, is also, what real life survivor would you say your game was like this season, and why?
Ooh, that's interesting. So I typically like to say survivor wise that I think I play probably most like Sophie. I don't think that you see, a lot of women that are, like to try to control things and be a little manipulative and backstabbing. And Sophie is probably like where you see that a little bit, but since I wasn't quite as out front this time, maybe like I was a little bit like Denise in Winners at War, where she clips Sandra and then, can't ever quite wiggle her way completely into the, majority
Mhm.
group. So maybe Denise. That'll be, I don't know.
I feel like we could still give you Sophie Clark at Winners at War. The similar placement, your perception of you as someone who's in charge and a threat to win, and that's ultimately what gets you sent home, as Austin says, in a business decision. Uh, uh, but I as a Sophie stan, I'll always love that answer. Um, okay, the next novel is from Lex.
Okay.
Bear with me, I have a sun glare somehow in a cloudy day, but uh, Mama Kylie, to quote the iconic Sue Hawk of season one and All Stars, Kylie, I was your friend at the beginning of this, really thinking that you were a true friend. At that time, you were sweeter than me. Not a very openly nice person. If I would ever pass you along in life and you are laying there dying of thirst, I would not give you a drink of water. Instead, I would give you a cocktail and a floaty, and we will laugh and chill by the pool all night long, listening to Shania Twain, laughing about everything that happened this season. I love you, my friend, and I can't wait to see our friendship grow over time. Don't forget how amazing you truly are. For my question, I want to know, what was the move or moves you needed to do that could have changed the trajectory of your game, ensuring you get to the end?
Ooh, okay.
Whew.
Probably, and I love that. I love Lex so much. Probably where I messed up, and this should have happened at the very beginning, is with me knowing that Ashley was close to Karen, but Ashley not knowing that I was close to Karen. I should have disclosed that information, and then maybe Ashley and I could have played the whole entire game together, with the idea of like at the merge, we link up with Karen and we are a three that can maybe slide under the radar a little bit. And I'm going to put that more on me than Ashley because, like I said, she did not know about that connection, and I did know about hers with Karen. So that is probably where I messed up. And I don't have to worry about Lex as much if I feel like I have Ashley closer to me. And so that's probably where I went wrong.
Cool. The next question is from the winner of Monte Carlo, Jonathan. Kylie, my fellow Q4 challenge beast, Red Skull from day one icon. You always do so well in games. I'm so glad to have seen you come back and play in All Stars. You mentioned to me that I would probably not agree with some of your gameplay or decisions this season. So, what were you referencing specifically, and what was the reason behind them at the time?
Yeah, knew that Jonathan would probably not like what I did at Merge. Kind of does have a little bit of shades of what I did at Monte Carlo, although for different reasons. And I think that Jonathan was probably like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" While, yes, it was super entertaining, maybe not the most beneficial for my game because I could have stayed under the radar a little bit longer. So that is mainly what I'm referencing. And then the continuation of like letting this three and then also this 4 and 5 with Zucker and Andrew slide through and not recognizing the previous season alliance.
Good answer. And I totally missed the spot of the fact that in both merge votes that you've been a part of, you've been a very vocal part of making it happen and flipping the game on its head both times.
Yeah, like it's me. I'm the
Truly,
problem.
truly, and we're thankful for that as a production crew. The next question is from Garsaw, and Garsow. It's Austin
Austin
Garsow.
2.0.
Austin 2.0 as well. 5 names. um, Kylie, I had such a blast playing this game with you and loved getting to know you as a person. Your laugh and smile are so infectious and are more than enough to put anyone in a good mood. I genuinely wanted to go very deep in this game with you. Looking back, I wish I would have been more vocal about that, as well as my willingness to get Lex out at a later time. If I had done a better job of making that clear to you, do you think that would have changed your mindset round one of the merge?
Probably not. I mean, I like, Moby Dick had my sights set on my target, and I just was so laser focused, like tunnel vision, had to get Lex out. So, no, even if, I mean, it's hard to say for certain, but no, I think that, it's a move that I had wanted to make with Corey, at the final 16. So I think that it was probably too far gone and that I wanted to do this. And I really felt like, it would have busted the game open a little bit. Um, Probably no, I don't think it would have helped. But I guess we'll never know.
Oh, to live, Garso. You
Right. I
tried.
mean, like, and then, but then I sit here and I think about it. I'm like, if he would have, like, really pushed, like, I am with you to the end, but, like, let's get him at, like, 9, maybe I would have listened.
Okay. And the next question is from the editor and co-host of Dynamic Character Productions. It's McKenna Feeney. If we are going on a technicality, you're still in the game and Kylie Scruggs is voted out of the game. Had you gotten a non-elimination round, what would you have done to make sure it wasn't you again the next round?
Great question. I don't know if I have the right answer for it because, maybe one thing that I do have a problem with in these games is I think at that point, like, I would have just wanted Zucker out, and that wouldn't have been the right decision. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily been the wrong decision, because he is connected with that group, but, I probably would have still like had my tunnel vision, but now it would have been set on Zucker. And so that wouldn't have been the right decision. But would there have been a better decision? Like who is eligible to go besides me? Garso or Karen? Like I don't want to let either one of those two go. And so I think any of the 5 names that are left on the board, I don't know if we're able to get any of them. And so like you said, I kind of think that looking at it, I kind of screwed myself with the Lex vote in that 5 may have come together no matter what. And so, yeah, it would have been fun to have a non elimination round, but I probably would have said Zucker. And also knowing that he has an idol, like, not a good decision.
Okay. And then her part two of her question is also a two-parter, so bear with me. Uh Her second question, what would you have done if Kyle, someone you organized a vote of, was on the island? And then what if it was McKenna Inglis, someone who voted you out of the game?
Ooh, so I mean, I feel like I could have worked with Kyle or McKenna. Um, like, who are they taking the place of? Just anybody?
Let's say they're taking the place of Mike.
Okay. But they're at the merge.
Yeah, they get to the
Okay.
merge. They're there for you to
Yeah,
play
no, I
or
mean,
swap, whatever.
yeah, I think that I would have been willing to work with McKenna or Kyle. I never had a one-on-one conversation with Kyle of like, oh, hey, sorry, I had to keep Mike because, that
Mhm.
pre-existing relationship that we had. And, hindsight in that game, I should have voted out Jonathan. But I would hope that Kyle would be willing to work with me. But I don't have any hard feelings towards McKenna. I hope she learned her lesson. I told her she was going to get voted out next. And so I just would hope that she would be willing to work with me again because I mean, honestly, like, yes, Mike was the person I was always working closest with there, but like, we were trying to work with McKenna and Victoria. So,
Yeah.
McKenna Inglis should not have any hard feelings towards me.
I think McKenna was phrasing that as more like, would you have targeted McKenna
Oh,
if you
no,
saw
no, no.
her?
I wouldn't
Yeah.
have targeted either one of them. I would have enjoyed having either one of them in the game.
Love that. And then this gets us to our last question before my question. And it's our good friend and pal, our Philly slash Florida boy, Mike Rick. The badass from the Lone Star State, Kylie, you're the best ally I've ever had and have easily become one of my best friends. Unbiasedly speaking, you're also one of my favorite players to watch navigate a game. In Monte Carlo, we made some crazy moves, but I would argue that the moves you made in this game were even better. When Monte Carlo was over, we talked about all the things we could have done better. What is one thing in All Stars that you could have done to get yourself to the end and possibly get you the win? Thank you and go Eagles.
Okay, that's disgusting.
I support it.
He like ruined such a nice message. Go Cowboys. But Ian, stop. Okay. Now I'm distracted. I mean, I think that the thing that I really messed up in, like I said, is the connection with Ashley. And like looking back at it, how closely Ashley did feel with me because she is probably the one that I lumped in too closely with Lex and underestimated the relationship that she and I had. And so that's my biggest mistake in the game is not nurturing that relationship more, not relying on it, and then also, like I said, not coming forward with my connection to Karen with her, because I think that that could have really just set us up well in the merge.
Okay. Well, now it's my question time, and it's me, Mr. Positivity. Tell me one positive thing you can take away from your All Stars experience.
Well, let's see. So I played one game in between Monte Carlo and All Stars, and it was probably just all around not an enjoyable experience for me. Like, I don't know, I just like questioned like what I was doing. Like, I don't know. I left it kind of just with a bad taste in my mouth, and it's nothing against the game or the host. Like it was also just a really really well run game, but I didn't have the best experience, and so it's kind of one of those things. I was like, do I want to keep doing this? And then when All Stars came up, I was like, okay, like I had such a great time the first time. It's definitely something I want to do again. And getting to like, I let this getting voted out. But I don't have any hard feelings towards anybody. Like no bitterness. I had such a blast, and so it really just put a better taste in my mouth about playing orgs. And so
Oh, that wraps up the Facebook questions. Back to you, Ian.
I'll wait till she's back. She's sort of back.
what's happening?
Oh, you were just a
Hello.
little.
Yeah, you were all frozen.
Glitchy. That's what happens when you live in the middle of nowhere in East Texas.
All right. Well, you're back now. So before it happens again, we'll get to my two questions. First question, Kylie, You're going to replace Mike because he's your only option with one other person from Monte Carlo.
So, I mean, technically he's not my only option.
Oh,
Shay
well,
is
Shea as
too.
well, but
So, like I want to replace Shay. I want to replace Shay
replace both
with
of them. Just replace both of them.
okay. Well, I'm gonna replace Shay with I'm pretty sure that the mic that's on the other tribe is from Trinity Falls, so I'd like to replace. No, I'm kidding. Lots of technicalities there. The person I'd want to replace Shay with though is probably Victoria. I really, really had hoped that Victoria would play this game. She's someone that I've gotten to be pretty close with since our season. I think she and I could have worked well together and it not necessarily been like pegged, okay, well, those two are going to play together. Because yes, we sort of played together in Monte Carlo, but sort of not. And so would have loved to have seen Victoria. Her. That's who I choose. And then if you replace Mike, I would have probably wanted it to have been somebody that got voted out and I didn't care. So, Andrew.
All right, and then second, your DCP Mount Rushmore.
Okay. Karen.
Okay.
For being the OG winner. And, I mean, obviously, we're at Final 7. She's still in it. Like, seeing her navigate, like getting to see where she was in her OG tribe and now for her to be in Final 7, like super impressive. And it's the first game I've really gotten to play with Karen, and so getting to watch her maneuver has been fun. Gotta say Morgan because she's like, the advantage queen turned, host queen. Probably Simmons just for being such a challenge beast. And then once again, like he gets into the merge and through the first 4 votes isn't even really mentioned as a target. So like that says something not just about his physical game, but his social game too. And then a 4th one, I'll give it to Jonathan because he did play a good game in our little Monte Carlo game. So there's my Mount Rushmore.
All right. Well, I just want to say to you, Kylie, I hosted you the first time around. Obviously, when you applied for Monte Carlo, you had played 2 games up to that point and had done very well in both of them. And while you finished 6th place in Monte Carlo, I thought your game this time around was, I mean, placement doesn't mean everything. I thought you played a great game from start to finish. I think your merge day one, even though you still go home, merge day one is very impressive.
Thank you.
It was fun to watch. I think we were all chatting while it was going on, saying like how enjoyable it was, not from just even your gameplay, but others as well. But I think the gameplay you showed overnight into the first morning was what we had heard of before you came and played DCP the first time around. So it was fun to watch.
Thank you. It was enjoyable. Hopefully it made some good episodes, even if it didn't make the most sense.
When we like to end our exits with the same question, and that is, if you could sum up your game in one word, what would it be and why?
Ooh, interesting. And I knew this was coming, and I've like been trying to think of the right word. I don't want to say chaotic because I think I was really, really restrained in the tribe portion. The merge, I would say it's a bit chaotic, but maybe outsider.
All right.
I don't know. What word do y'all say?
It doesn't matter what we say.
Yeah.
It's your word.
Yeah.
But
Close.
it's a fun word because I think it's like a little cavalier. It's like you wanted to take this game by the horns. Like while we're in groups, you played in a role of being on the outside of it, which allowed you to have more flexibility with how you wanted to play the game, and that's very respectable.
Thank you. Yeah, so, maybe the word I should use is close. Like I was close. I was close to the majority. I was close to like being at that point where I feel like I could have broke through to the end. So we'll go with close.
Yeah.
All right, switch to close. Switch. Of course, this is not horseshoes or hand grenades, so doesn't matter. But Kylie, thanks for hopping on with us. Is there anything else that you'd like to say before we close out?
Just once again, thank y'all for putting out one of the best games. Like the time that y'all put into thinking of the challenges, thinking of the advantages, which I was super close to getting one. So pat myself on the back. Just bar none what y'all do. And so appreciative of y'all. And I'm glad to have the opportunity to play again.
Well, as Alex usually says, that's what we do this for. That we love to hear that kind of stuff. We love having people back that want to come back. So yeah, it's always good to host and put on these games for everyone, with or without the positive word we get from everyone. So all right, well, Dynamic Character Productions All Stars Rites of Passage rolls on. We are down to the final 7 episodes. As always, Monday, Thursday exits when they happen, and then our Sunday show with John Millsip and guests. Yeah, we will catch you on those and our social medias. Don't forget to follow them because yeah, that's where you find out if when those exits are, because they just kind of show up. So we'll catch you next time around. Thanks for following along. Peace.